Imagine facing a $600 debt, a financial death sentence for a single mother, yet the judge ignored the charge, looking instead at a faded photo of her child. What followed was not a legal ruling, but a shocking personal connection that spanned 3 decades, uniting 2 generations of struggling women in the same courtroom spot, leading to a verdict of pure compassion. The courtroom was filled with the usual hushed anxiety of Monday morning, and everyone waited for the wisdom of the judge who sat high above the room, a man whose reputation preceded him, a dispenser of justice tempered by compassion, a rare sight in the often cold world of municipal law. And as the bailiff called out the next case, a young woman named Ana Rodriguez, barely 28 years old, stepped forward toward the stand, her simple attire and nervous posture speaking volumes about the burden she carried, and the court clerk read out the charge. Case number 81203, City of Providence versus Ana Rodriguez. Parking violation, unauthorized parking zone, hospital district. Fine, $600, the final amount echoing in the room, a devastating figure for someone clearly struggling. And the judge looked down at the file, then raised his gaze to meet hers, his expression measured, asking her how she pled to the serious violation. And Anna, clasping her hands tightly, her voice thin but determined, responded that she pled not guilty, or perhaps she qualified, not guilty by circumstance, if that's allowed, acknowledging the legal difficulty of her defense, but hoping for a moment of human understanding. And the judge, known for exactly that understanding, acknowledged that while there was no formal plea of not guilty by circumstance, he would always hear the circumstances, inviting her to explain the desperate situation that led her park in the restricted tollway zone adjacent to Providence General Hospital, a space typically reserved strictly for ambulances and essential hospital vehicles. And Anna began her story, her voice gaining a little strength as she spoke about her daughter, Lily, who was 5 years old and suffered from a severe, often sudden, form of asthma that required immediate medical intervention, explaining that 2 months ago, a terrifying attack had gripped a small child while they were alone in their apartment, detailing how she had tried to inhale it without success, and how she saw Lily's lips begin to turn blue, a vision of absolute terror that consumed her entirely, causing all rational thought, including adherence to parking regulations, to vanish instantly, and she described scooping up the child, running out to her old, reliable but slow car, and driving frantically toward the nearest emergency room, her entire focus being only on the hospital entrance, seeing nothing else, no signs, no painted curbs, no indication of the serious violation she was committing in her overwhelming parental panic. And she continued, explaining that she rushed Lily inside, spending hours in the emergency room waiting for her daughter to stabilize, confirming that thankfully Lily was fine now, but that when she emerged from the hospital, emotionally drained but relieved, the ticket was there, a monumental $600 violation for the tollway zone, a fine she knew was technically correct but felt morally crushing, and she elaborated on her financial reality, the 2 exhausting jobs, one serving coffee, the other cleaning offices late at night, the constant struggle to meet rent and pay for Lily's medication, explaining that the $600 was more than half her monthly disposable income, a debt that would instantly destroy her efforts to save even a meager amount to eventually return to community college, a dream that felt impossibly distant. And she finished her plea by saying she was desperate, confirming that she wouldn't have done it otherwise, truly hoping the judge would grant her clemency based on the extreme duress of the situation, a situation she believed any parent would instantly understand. And the judge, leaning back, his eyes thoughtfully assessing Anna, responded that he understood the primal panic of a parent, acknowledging that the safety of a child rightly obliterates all other concerns in a mother's mind, a principle he had seen demonstrated time and time again in his decades on the bench. Yet he still asked to confirm if she genuinely hadn't seen the prominently displayed signs or the distinctively painted curb, pressing the question because the area was crucial for public safety and the swift movement of emergency vehicles. And Anna reaffirmed that in her state of sheer panic, she had truly seen nothing but the hospital doors, that her focus was singular, and the judge then asked why, after the fact, when she had calmed down and saw the ticket, she had not attempted to immediately appeal or contact the court to explain the critical nature of the emergency, and Anna explained that she had, detailing her frustrating call to the parking department, only to be told that due to the severity of a tollway violation, There was no standard appeal process, and she would have to pay or appear in court, a difficult decision that required her to take precious time off work, losing income just to fight the crippling fine. And as Anna paused, taking a deep, ragged breath, she unconsciously reached for the worn leather wallet she had been clutching throughout the testimony, and in the movement of her opening it slightly, a small, laminated photograph, tucked securely into a clear plastic flap, briefly became visible, and the judge's sharp gaze, which missed nothing in his courtroom, caught the tiny picture, and an undeniable curiosity, a flicker of something familiar, appeared in his eyes, and he gently interrupted the proceeding, asking Anna if the photograph he had glimpsed was her daughter, and Anna, surprised or cooperative, confirmed that it was Lily, and the judge, with a rare solemnity, asked permission to see the photo up close, a request that instantly silenced the courtroom, and Anna carefully detached the picture from the wallet and gave it to the bailiff, who passed it up the bench, and the judge took the photograph, his eyes scanning the image of the smiling 5-year-old, his expression softening immediately, then becoming intently focused, as if trying to grasp a fleeting memory. And he looked up at Anna, his voice now lower, more personal, asking her again about the girl's name and age, and Anna confirmed the details. Lily, 5 years old, and the judge nodded slowly, a deep, profound recognition dawning in his eyes, and he began to speak of another little girl many, many years ago, a child who had also been in his courtroom, a child whose mother, he distinctly recalled, worked as a cleaning lady, and Anna's eyes widened in shocked realization, and she spoke the connection aloud, confirming that her mother's name was Maria Rodriguez, and that she, Anna, was that little girl who had stood terrified beside her, mother decades earlier in this very courtroom, and the memory, once vague, solidified for the judge, who confirmed that he remembered Maria, a hard-working woman facing a minor offense due to the struggles of poverty and her busy work schedule, and he remembered the tiny Anna, standing quietly beside her mother, clutching a small, crayon-drawn picture of a flower that she had offered to the judge in an act of simple, childish kindness, a gesture he had never forgotten, confirming that the very little girl who had given him that innocent drawing all those years ago was now the woman standing before him, facing her own desperate maternal struggle. And Anna began to weep openly, recognizing profound symmetry of the moment, the circle of compassion coming around exactly when she needed it most, and the judge's voice, now full of deep emotion and empathy, rose, addressing Anna directly, speaking not just as a judge, but as a wise mentor and fellow parent, noting the strange but beautiful way life had brought them back together, and he praised her mother, Maria, recalling her fierce devotion and hard work, traits he now saw reflected in Anna as she fought to provide for her own daughter, and he turned to the weighty issue of the ticket, acknowledging the severity of the tollway zone violation, a rule he rarely overturned because of the necessary logistics of the hospital's operation. But he declared that in this specific, exceptional instance, the circumstances of a mother's panic to save her child's life combined with the powerful, decades-old memory of her mother's struggle and her own childhood innocence shown in this very room, transcended the literal code of the law. And he looked directly at Anna, his gaze unwavering, announcing his decision to dismiss the $600 fine completely, the gravity of the decision striking the silent courtroom, and the sudden, profound relief washed over Anna, who was incapable of speaking, only capable of nodding through her tears, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the reprieve, which meant more than just $600. It meant the preservation of her savings, her stability, and her hope for Lily's future. And the judge offered a final word of advice, asking her to continue being a wonderful mother, reminding her to try to observe the parking rules in future, but stressing that in this single, poignant emergency, her maternal instinct had rightly superseded the parking law. And he sent her off with a final, touching request, asking her to tell Lily that Judge Caprio said hello, closing the circle of their unlikely connection. And Anna, profoundly grateful, left the stand, her steps lighter, carrying the weight of the dismissed fine and the unexpected gift of grace, as the judge, settling back on the bench, paused for a reflective moment. The small photograph of Lily, a quiet reminder of his judicial philosophy, before he cleared his throat and called for the next case, letting the stream of daily life and routine courtroom procedure continue. The story of Ana Rodriguez and the power of a tiny photograph becoming one. More unforgettable chapter in the ongoing narrative of justice tempered by compassion in his famous courtroom, a story he would likely carry with him long after the session ended, knowing he had not only dispensed justice, but had also preserved a family's hope, honoring the struggles of 2 generations of hard-working mothers, Maria and Anna, who had both, in their desperate moments, found kindness and understanding on his bench.